you put Scar in a perfect way. I volunteer. This sounds like me.
That's the lore reason. The in-universe canon reason is far more stupid.
Take that, Gilliman!
Like, and I don't blame him. He sucks. He's such an asshole. He's so bad.
I mean, this is supposed to be Disney, but I feel like Skeletor is like, I've been copyright infringed and they're stealing my shtick.
Hello everyone and welcome to Swatt Deeds Talk, episode 7. And this is a very special episode because Disney is now merging with the 40k universe. Yes, the Space Marine legions are here, the Emperors are here, and we're all getting drafted! All the funny ones too.
Holy cats, I've been drafted!
So I actually know a lot about Disney, but my 40k knowledge is not that deep. So I brought in a very great expert that can, lore-wise explain all this freaky thing that we're about to do when we draft Disney characters into Space Marine legions. So first, attention on deck because General Officer Bradley 101 is here.
Hey there, brother. Thank you so much for having me on. Yeah, I'm super hyped to be here. This thing was a big part of my life growing up, and glad to get a merger with the wacky world of Warhammer 40k.
Yes, I am 100% for this because in a weird way, Warhammer is sci-fi, but it's also very fantasy-esque.
No, 100%. There's so much fantasy elements to 40k. 40k is often described as being a very strong fantasy sci-fi hybrid because a big part about 40k is you take a look at 40k, you can tell that there's a lot of Gothic inspiration from it, from the buildings alone. There's a lot of we have literal crusaders in everything in very different factions. So there's a lot of dark medieval Gothic inspiration, the fantasy vibes blended with the whole grimdark aspect because the origin of 40k basically lies humanity, super great, really great, awesome, best that there ever was, right? Then two things happen. One, Terminator. So the plot for Terminator, Robot Rebellion, that.
Yeah.
Secondly, we had space, but then there was hell. Then there was a new space hell with a new space Satan, which meant that demons were everywhere and everyone got magic powers, which then spawned demons. So everything kind of went downhill pretty quick.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
Basically, the idea behind it is to sum up 40k, super advanced sci-fi now degraded back into a medieval world of fantasy.
Yeah, I would say that that's perfectly the way to describe this. Yes, we have guns, but there's also demons. We need magic to beat them.
You can't shoot ghosts, right?
So in this one, basically, we're going to be drafting Disney characters into Space Marine Legion. And as the general, it's your responsibility to draft them into different Space Marine Legion. But before we get into that, I want you to explain to the new viewers. I know a little bit of it, but if there's someone new to it, what are Space Marines and what are legions and chapters?
Okie dokie. So, like anything in Warhammer 40k, there is no such thing as a simple explanation. Because the beautiful thing about 40k is that every story event, every faction ties into one another. So if you talk about one, you end up talking about everyone. But I'll try and be as very succinct as I can.
Yeah.
So way back when, you had this big golden dude called the Emperor of Mankind, right? He is basically the culmination of the perfect human. Depending on what source you read, his creation mythos is different. But generally speaking, he's a perpetual. Now, in Warhammer 40k, a perpetual is a special type of human that is basically immortal. And he is said to be the greatest of the perpetuals.
One of my funny explanation that I came across is he's a 13 shaman in a trench coat. I think it was Islander and Coda's podcast.
Yeah. So that is one of the oldest and one of the most common canon examples of it. Basically, the idea that way back when at the dawn of humanity, several hundred shamans, which were essentially proto-psychers, which is space magic, literally. They channeled the power of the warp. Yeah. So they basically committed a mass suicide, right? And they did that to give birth to the Emperor. So that's the idea behind it. The Emperor comes back and he decides, I'm going to reunify all of humanity. So he creates his first set of gene warriors using biochemical alchemy, right? He creates the Thunder Warriors, which were the proto-Astartes, right?
Uh,
Problem is, the Thunder Warriors were very violent, both in a mental sense and also a physical sense. They were said to have quote unquote bad blood. Basically, what that means is that their genetic alchemy was so unstable, their organs would implode, they would have hemorrhages and ruptures. They had a lifespan before their body literally gave out.
so
Right?
they're basically like Experiment 626, aka Stitch, but unfinished and unhinged.
Yeah, 100%. Basically, if the Astartes are the refined blade the Emperor used to carve out the galaxy, this is the big fuck off wooden club. Like, it's just there to get something done, right? But basically, what happens is when Terra is reunified, because Terra was taken over by a bunch of techno-barbarian warlords, essentially barbarian clans, but they had technology of, Warhammer 40K, right? So they're all wiped out by the Thunder Warriors. Then what Biggie does is that he then has to get rid of the Thunder Warriors. So there ends up being a coup by the Provost Marshal, aka the big high police chief of the Imperium, right? With the remaining Thunder Warriors, right? But at that very moment, the Emperor unleashes his first ever Astartes, his Angels of Death, the Space Marines.
Ooh.
And these were the first ever Space Marines known as the First Legion, or by their pre-heresy title, the Uncrowned Princes. So
Nice.
what's interesting, very quality. So what's interesting about Space Marines is that they have two distinct identities. Well, three rather. So you have the identity before they met their Primarch, right? I'll explain Primarchs in a minute. You then have the identity after they met their Primarch, and then you have the identity after the heresy when they were split into chapters.
In this one, we can like kind of merge after they met the Primarch and also after the heresy a little bit. Or we can go into the intention of are these guys going to be traitors? Because that's one of the biggest things that happened in 40K is when the biggest family dispute and the legions kind of split up into factions. So
oh yeah. Dude, Warhammer 40K is Daddy Issues the musical, literally. So when people talk about legions, they are specifically talking about pre-reunification with the Primarch and during the Great Crusade and during the Heresy. When you hear someone say the term legion, right?
Okay.
So that's particularly what they're talking about. But basically, the legions were created using gene seed of the Primarchs. So a common question people ask is, okay, he created the Thunder Warriors, but how were the Space Marines not going to suffer from the same issues? The Emperor would then go into a contract with Chaos. What is Chaos? Satan. Literally, the four Satans of Warhammer 40K. They live in space hell. Pretty simple. That's literally it.
I never heard of space devils.
So he made a pact with the Satans to give him that special juice to make the Primarchs, right? The problem is he reneged on that promise. So what happened is the gods of chaos and like Erda, who is like the mother of the Primarchs, but that's not important right now, again, 40K. So the chaos gods then grab the Primarchs, yeet them across space, right? So they all land on different planets. And the Emperor has to play his favorite game of Pokemon and catch them all. He has to reunite with all 18 of his Primarchs. So initially, there were 20 Space Marine legions. But for one reason or another, there are two legions, the 2nd and the 11th, that are eradicated from history and physicality. Now, in lore, so basically in lore, we have no idea why. Out of lore, though, we know the reason why. When GW first created the 20 legions, they left 2 blank, so that if you wanted to create your own legion called Homebrew, which was very popular at the time, you could.
Nice. I also like that. It's a good marketing point. I think one of your videos about like homebrewing your own Space Marine Legion video, which I really enjoyed, where they basically did that. So if you want to color your own Space Marines, do it. We'll support it.
Yeah, hundreds. So to cut a very long story even shorter, the Emperor then goes on a great crusade with his Space Marine legions, right? A legion could be anywhere from like 80,000 all the way up to 250,000 Space Marines. The Space Marines are the perfect genetically augmented enhanced superhuman. They're augmented with anywhere from 12 all the way up to 15 different gene seed organs. These are special organs like a second heart, a third lung, a biomechanical interface that allows them to connect to their power armor known as the black carapace. So it
Ooh.
basically feels like a second skin, right? There's also one that lets them spit acid. But these were the perfect super soldiers, and they were going to usher in the new age of humanity until the Horus Heresy happened. The Horus Heresy is basically a giant civil war between the Emperor and the War Master, his first son, not his firstborn son, but the first amongst his sons, known as Horus Lupercal. He was corrupted by the powers of chaos by the use of Erebus, who was the first chaplain or a very high long echelon to the word bearers, which are led by another one of his brothers, Lorgar. And they are the first ever heretic legions. They were the first Space Marine legion to fall to chaos a good 50 years before the rest. So it's this 7-year bloody civil war, billions, trillions, quintillions dead, whole planets ravaged, everything is terrible. And at the very end, the Emperor manages to slay Horus, but only after Horus had killed his other son, known as Sanguinius the Angel, said to be the
Yes,
most favored son,
the
and
hot boy.
Orlanius Pius. But that's it. And Orlanius Pius, who's said to be one of the Emperor's longest friends and is the patron saint of all guardsmen. After
Ooh.
that, the Emperor manages to kill Horus Lupercal, but he's mortally injured. So the Imperium, without their Golden Lord, they can't do anything. So what do? They hook him up to some old school Dark Age technology stuff, which he helped make, known as the Golden Throne. And now the Eternal Emperor sits upon the Golden Throne. And that is basically the start of Warhammer 40K. So all that was the prehistory to the current setting, and it's a super abridged version.
Yeah, so the thing is with the audience, I would say, like, Warhammer is even weirdly, I think Disney is older than 40K, but in terms of lore-wise, I think even with Disney absorbing many more franchises, I think Warhammer still is like the biggest lore, I would say, that even tops Disney's lore.
It's massive.
Yeah, so
It's massive. So, something I'd recommend to the newer folks, if you're gonna get into 40K, it can feel a little much. Don't start from the beginning. Like, don't start from the beginning.
This is not a story. Once upon no. Just like pick your
pick
whatever.
a faction.
Yeah, pick a faction. Go whatever flavor you like, and then go from there. And this can actually really act as a great intro to you, because like as we draft the Disney characters, you will give brief introduction to each legion, and sometimes when we can get into chapters. So before I start throwing Disney characters, I also want to say, like, some of these characters have so much protagonist syndrome. They're gonna be leading their own chapters. It's not gonna be like, I'm another guy in a space legion. Disney characters don't work like that. But
oh Lord.
But I would say some of them is just gonna be a regular Space Marine, or maybe they have a rank in the Space Marine Legion. So there's some of them.
You know what? You have sergeants, and then you have centurions, which are like captains. I'm sure they could do something, right?
Yeah,
they could fit them there.
So no worries, we don't need to give their own chapters for every specific characters, but for some characters we do have to, and I will specifically say to you. So no worries about that. But this is going to be making sense and not going to be making sense, and it's going to get wacky. So let's draft our first Disney character into one of the Space Marine legions. The first character I'm throwing at you is Prince Charming. So in the Cinderella movie, he has a very minor role, but there are 2 sequel movies, which not a lot of people saw them because they're straight to DVDs, where we get to see what kind of a character is Prince Charming likes. I will say the best thing he can describe, he is charming, but he's also easily bored. You can see that from the first movie where he's like, all the girls are swooning over, and he's like, oh, I'm too bored of this whole thing. And there's a great scene in Cinderella 3 where we see Prince Charming working out, and he is a great fencer. His main weapon is the sword, but not like a broadsword. It's like, those rapier thing that's also flexible a little bit.
Yeah.
He's also very acrobatic. We can see him jumping around, and much of a daredevil. This dude jumps out of like a castle and things like that. And also, his gym is very pink. I feel like I need to mention that detail. It's like the pinkest gym that you'll ever see. So if you're going to draft him into a Space Marine Legion, what legion will it be?
So charming, slightly confident, perhaps maybe a little arrogant, a really good swordsman, and easily bored.
Yeah.
Without a single shred of a doubt, 100% the Third Legion Emperor's children. The children of the Emperor, the Third Legion. Originally, when the Legion was created, they were known for being some of the best when it came to where they got drafted from. Because most people on Terra got drafted from all over the place. These guys particularly got drafted from noble families, and thus they had an air of
Ooh.
nobility to them. Mostly, these were hostages from conquered kingdoms given to the emperor to prevent them from rebelling again. And their claim to fame came when the emperor was visiting a world, he took a cohort of these guys with him. Because since they were nobles, they were very good at being diplomats, very good at being, persuaders, public speakers. But yeah, they knew how to talk, right?
Mm.
Charming. So it turns out that that was a lie. It was a big old trap. And the people who the emperor was visiting tried to assassinate him. He managed to get away, but at the sacrifice of most of the cohort of those emperor's children. They didn't have a name at the time. But
Ah.
after this, the emperor called them his children, and they were permitted to wear purple, the color of the imperial household. If you're a history nerd, you know purple color of nobility and royalty. And they were the only legion that was permitted to wear the golden aquila, the golden double-headed eagle on their chest,
Ooh.
until the very end of the Siege of Terra, or the very beginning, rather. That is when the emperor decreed that everyone could wear that, because if you're a loyalist, you are a part of the emperor. So for the longest time, only the imperial household, being the emperor's dudes themselves, the custodians, the sisters of silence, the super awesome mega elites, and the emperor's children were allowed to wear that.
So these guys would definitely fit charming in a sense, like they're royalty, they're very good talkers,
Mhm.
and
Yeah,
also great swordsmen. But where does
excellent swordsman.
the easily bored comes from for these guys?
You see, the emperor's children are known for being perfectionists. They
Ooh.
demand to always perfect and hone their skills. And that's actually how they fall to chaos. They have a notoriety for being very pedantic, being stuck up, being really hoity-toity. And what happened is that when Fulgrim came into contact with something called the Layer Blade, right? It was a
Ooh.
chaotic Xeno sword infused with Slanesh. Slanesh is one of the big four, right? Slanesh is the god of excess, excess in every form. Basically, there is no such thing as taboo. When you're
Uh,
Slanesh, you will be having like all the drugs, all the alcohol, all the sex, all the loud music, everything all at the same time, to the point where you can't feel anything, but you can feel everything.
this is
Slanesh is
where
excess made
this is
manifest.
this is where the Disney loses its PG rating and goes completely R rated. Basically, Hunchback of Notre
Oh,
Dame.
100%. Yeah, no. Like I think it's a movie called Event Horizon. Really good example of what chaos is, right?
Ooh.
Because it's not 40K directly, but anyone who's watched it will point and say, yeah, that's what 40K is like. If you want an idea about the warp and like warp travel in the Gale field. But anyway, Slanesh basically manages to corrupt the Emperor's children, and their quest for perfection then becomes a quest for excess. So they goes from them because they got bored really easily, right?
Ah.
They always wanted to perfect and to hone their stuff. They were like, "This is not worthy of my skill. I don't want to partake in it." They were very hoity-toity, very high and mighty. They always wanted a challenge. They always wanted to be perfect. And this went from them going more and more and more excessive and excessive and excessive. So a perfect example is that they have something called the Noise Marine. That's one of their special units. These are Marines who have broken their hearing so badly that the only way they can hear is by blasting sonic weapons so loud it can physically melt the flesh off your bones.
We'll kind of stick with because, like, I think at the end of the day, yeah, even though it's chaos, I don't want to go full chaos for Disney Princess
Yeah.
because
No, no,
mainly,
no, no.
yeah,
He's definitely going to be pre-heresy Emperor's children. But even
yeah.
then, still very hoity-toity, very charming, loves his swordplay, gets bored easily. He always wants to be doing something. He strives for perfection, right? Also, Emperor's children are the second most beautiful legion of all the legions.
I think, yeah, that statement alone is fitting of Charming, the most beautiful thing ever. And also, he wants perfection, and Cinderella is perfection incarnate, and Charming must have her. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I had a hunch that you were gonna go for the Emperor's Children, because like when I looked at Charming and also the Art of Fulgrim, I was like, I see a resemblance. But now we'll move on to the other prince, Prince Eric from The Little Mermaid. Well, about
Ooh.
him, I will say that he's not shown to be any particularly with any sort of specific weapon, but we know he's like a very good seaman. Great
Mm.
sailor, can command his own ship, knows everything where the ship wise, and got a lot of, I would say, guts. I think out of all of them, because like he's the only guy who saw a big kraken and thought, "Yeah, I'm gonna beat it," and then just rams an old broken ship into Ursula. So I mean, he's really brave, really good seaman. And have you seen the size of his forearms? Like, I think he's probably the guy who
Mm.
had the biggest forearms in the whole Disney characters. Maybe he's doing a Popeye thing. So where do you see him
Yeah.
landing in like the Space Marine Legion?
Would you say that he's very like dutiful? He's all about duty and like honor bound. Like he has a job to do, he's going to get it done.
No, I wouldn't say that because the thing with Eric is that he kind of is flimsy with his royal duties because he would rather off be sailing,
Okay.
yeah, than doing any princely duty. And it's like everyone's telling him to get married, and he's like, "No, I must only marry the mermaid that I heard once."
He's a free spirit. So he doesn't
Yeah,
want to be held down by any rules. He wants to go out. He wants to do what he wants to do. He wants to live life with the wind in his hair, so to speak.
yeah. It's very driven by his heart, I would say, more than anything else.
Yeah. All right. Perfect. He belongs to the Fifth Legion, the White Scars.
Oh, the Khan.
The Khan. For those who don't know, the White Scars are a Mongolian nomadic inspired faction in Warhammer 40K. They're known as the Laughing Killers because they're said to enjoy the thrum of battle so much, not the murder, but rather the fact of riding and using a sword at the same time. The fact that
Mm.
they love it so much, they are said to genuinely laugh with joy when they fight.
Uh,
And they are all about being free-spirited.
would you say that
Yep, go
they
ahead.
have a need for speed? I've been saying
Oh
this too
yeah,
many times.
100%. The need for speed. Their combat doctrine revolves around hitting hard, hitting fast, and when the enemy realizes what's happening, you hit them again even harder and faster. Super, super fast. They make use of jet bikes, ground bikes, land speeders, jump pack infantry. Super, super fast. Their whole
Mm.
shtick is going fast and hitting hard.
Speed. I am speed.
And another thing is that they love freedom. The Khan,
Yeah.
most notably, didn't really agree with the idea of the Great Crusade. He didn't like the idea of going and conquering other people. He did it because he thought that, yeah, ultimately that is the best option, but he didn't like it. He wanted to be free. He wanted his people to be free. He wanted people to do their own business. Most notably, before the Fifth Legion reunited with the Khan, they just divided up into different companies, and the companies were scattered literally all over the galaxy doing their own thing. They had a thirst for freedom and a thirst and a love for it. They needed to be free and to do what their heart commanded.
Do you think there's like a one white scar out there who's like always saying, Khan, you shouldn't do that. You should find a wife and settle down already. Do you think like any one of them is like giving Khan the business? Or maybe it's his brothers or his dads or his uncles.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. Malcolm the Sigilite, which is basically like the best friend of Biggie and like the uncle to all the Primarchs, 1000% gives him shit for being like, you need to sit down and find a bride. And he's like, sorry, I can't hear you over the sound of my motorbike and my Mongolian metal throat singing. Literally. The Khan is just, he's like the cool uncle who just does whatever.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
him.
because like I can literally see him, Malkador, being like, I forgot the character's name in The Little Mermaid, who's like advisor to Eric, who's kind of like a father figure as well. He's like, Eric, you need to stop sailing the seven seas and find a bride and settle down. And then Eric's like, nah, she's too boring. So like, I think
No,
that's
literally the Khan. It's like, this is too boring. I'm out of here. Peace, big man. And he just dips. The Khan, most notably during the heresy, he didn't jump anywhere. He went on his own path and he found out exactly what was going on first before he
Uh,
immediately jumped to any decisions. He's very headstrong, but he's also very dutiful, and he's known as the underrated Primarch because he really is a fan favorite. He's very
ah,
underrated in the community because the con is just great. Also, he has a habit of literally delivering the sickest one-liners.
oh, give me one example.
Okay, so basically, him and his brother Fulgrim are at like a dinner party, and basically, what the Fulgrim says, and he says, a quote, I heard from one of my contacts on Mars, Jagatai, that those jet bikes go awfully fast. But you know what he's like. He doesn't want to do anything of that. He just wants to ride off into the stars sailing on his jet bike. Oh, but tell me, I would like to get upon your world, but I imagine you have to build me a palace. I would hate to get all my robes dirty. The insult stung at the Khan. It stung at his homeland. But as always, he did not retort. So tell me about those. I heard you do strange things to your jet bikes, Jagatai Khan. Really? Well, I heard you do strange things to your warriors, Fulgrim. And that was a massive play because the White Scars were known for modifying their jet bikes. But like, that X script is semi half remembered from the time. It's one of my favorites, but I only remember like the actual line. So take that with a grain of salt. But basically, yeah, the Khan is known for modifying his jet bikes, but at the time, Fulgrim was known for quite literally trying to modify his sons to make them more and more perfect and beautiful and excellent. And the Khan's just
Ah,
like, yeah, I pimp out my ride. At least I don't like try and do eugenics with my son, bitch.
yeah, yeah. It's like I'm not doing a fashion model walk with my Space Marine Legion. I'm just hopping up my hot
And
rod.
literally, like Fulgrim got so pissy. He was about ready to like escalate and throw hands. It took Sanguinius to just be like, now, calm down. It's okay. Easy there. He was making a joke. Just relax.
Now I'm feeling like Eric and Charming would be like those guys if they were in a Disney hall. They'd
Oh
be like,
yeah, no, 100%.
okay, so we move on to the next character. Okay, this is gonna be wacky, but there's a good reason why I picked this character. Okay, this is one of my friends who really love Disney. Really wanted to see what you will do with this character. Is
All
Jiminy
right.
Cricket
Jiminy Cricket.
from?
Okay.
Cricket's the name. Jiminy Cricket.
If you don't know the Pinocchio movie, after the fairy godmother makes Pinocchio come to life, Jiminy Cricket is assigned as Pinocchio's conscience. Because he's
Hmm.
a cricket, but he's, in a say, to know very good judgment when it comes to being good and not being good. Very high moral character, enough to be assigned as someone's conscience. So it's wacky. We're probably a mutant in 40K, but I'm guessing if he's a man, like in Once Upon a Time or something like that, what
Okay,
legion would
well,
he
like,
go?
question. All right. Which would he say that he values more? Right? Doing the right thing or the human thing or following rules?
I say doing the right thing. That would be his
Okay.
motto.
Then unironically, he would be a salamander.
Ah,
18th Legion salamanders,
the
without a
one,
doubt.
the ones
These
behind
the
you.
salamanders are my favorite legion. Like, I mean, if you can't tell, they are my favorite legion. I mean, the avatar I use in my videos is literally just a Fire Drake Terminator with like my logo on it, and like my banner as well is like a salamander in the forge.
Nice.
But yeah, the salamanders are the 18th Legiones Astartes. They were previously known as the Dragon Warriors.
Ooh,
And when Vulcan reunited with his sons, he renamed them after the greatest dragons on his homeworld. Because Vulcan comes from a place called Nocturne, which has literal dragons. Fire breathing, they live in volcanoes. C'est la vie,
but
right?
why do they call them salamanders?
Because the greatest dragons on Nocturne were called salamanders from time immemorial. So the biggest big bats, right? So Vulcan named his boys after the biggest dragons. That's the lore reason. The
Uh,
in-universe canon reason is far more stupid. GW existed back in the 80s.
yeah.
Someone thought it'd be funny to give a salamander paint job to like a space marine. So the 18th Legion salamanders were literally black and yellow, color checkered, patterned like a salamander. And they were literally just called the salamanders.
They're like, why? Why do you have to ruin? Like now that I'm realizing the real reason, I'm like, oh no, GW, why did you do this to one of the most favorite factions of all time?
Yeah, it was back in the 80s. This was during Rogue Trader when 40K, because okay, for those who don't know, 40K was initially released as Rogue Trader, which was an RPG game, right? Rogue Trader existed. They didn't think it would get super popular. Lo and behold, it got super popular. So they said, okay, we kind of need to rein in some of the bullshit because it's a little too much right now. We need to actually make this into a setting. And then a few years later, they released Warhammer 40K Second Edition. That is when we get to 40K being serious, but also a little silly, but more serious than silly.
It's silly in the way that it takes itself seriously. I would say, is that right?
100%.
Yeah.
The Salamanders are the 18th Legion, and they are known as the protectors of humanity. The Salamanders are my favorite Legion, but they're all about three things. One, being so incredibly durable, because they are the like top two, top three most like physically durable Marines. They're top two. In terms of defensive legions, they're definitely part of the three most. So the three most defensive legions are the Imperial Fists, the Salamanders, and the Death Guard. Right? Yeah, in terms of being like the most durable Marines, like pound for pound physically, Salamanders. So the Salamanders also are really good because they are said to have some of the best, if not the best gear. Because each single Salamander is a master blacksmith. Because Vulcan, their Primarch, grew up underneath a blacksmith. So each one of his boys got trained as a blacksmith, meaning that they know how to repair and look after and take care of their own gear. Which means that they invest time into it, making it good, meaning that the standard of their armor is usually significantly like higher than the normal quality. A Space Marine, to become a fully fledged Space Marine, he has to complete a set of trials. Each trial is different from each legion to chapter. The final trial of Salamanders, you want to know what that is?
Is it lava baby?
Well, no, that comes later or before. So it literally, I'm not joking, by the way. It literally is having them to kill a dragon.
Here you go, son. You know how to make a sword. Now take the sword and take out Big Lizard. Go ahead.
Well, now, to be fair, it is the last trial, so they do have some of the Space Marine organs. They've been trained for a little bit,
okay.
But they basically have to forge their own preferred weapon, like a spear or a sword or an axe, and go and 1v1 a big giant fire-breathing lizard.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
They are known as the Defenders of Humanity. They are the vanguard. They are the rear guard, rather, of the Space Marines. In current day Warhammer 40K, most Space Marines that aren't part of like the original legions are very hoity-toity. They don't care about human lives. They see themselves as better than normal humans. Salamanders are the complete opposite. There have been literal records of a salamander literally taking round after round, physically getting hurt to protect civilians. If you see a salamander, you know for a fact that no salamander will ever willingly give up civilians. They're known as the defenders of humanity for a reason. They will do the right thing, which to them is protecting the people of the Imperium. Because how can you be strong enough to protect the Imperium if you're not strong enough to protect its people? That's like a big quote of theirs.
A strong man stands up for himself. A stronger man stands up for others.
Oh, shoot. You know, I forgot my pen.
I do also want to ask, this is much more a deep explanation, but I still want to ask, like, so with 40K, they always say, like, there are no actual good guys because, like, everyone's kind of twisted in their own weird way. Because again, this is a dystopian sci-fi future, so I kind of get it. With salamanders, they say, like, oh, they're like the ideal space marine. Everyone loves salamanders. But then there's sometimes I find memes, except if you're a Xeno. So what is that thing?
Okay. So that is something that's taken out of context a lot. It's an excerpt. So Vulcan, their Primarch, their leader, their character, during one of his books, they are fighting against Eldar, which are space elves,
yeah,
Xenos, aliens, right? And what happens is that he is in a really upset because the Night Lords, another legion, which are the exact opposite of the Salamanders, start just shooting into a crowd of civilians because they're literally murdering psychopathic bastards. Vulcan sees that his best remembrance is basically like an historian slash documenter. Think of it like a wartime photographer, right, or a wartime
Ah,
reporter. His favorite dude gets killed by one of these rampaging Eldar because the Eldar have a coven of witches, which are basically psychers, right?
ah.
And what happens is that Vulcan comes across the loss of them, an Eldar juvenile, so probably like 12 or 13, but like a kid, right?
Okay.
And she's a psyker. And she's bursting with psychic energies, lashing out, killing left and right. 'Cause psychers are no joke. And basically, she gets on her knees, and then she is like, with defiance burning in her eyes, she lifts her wrists up to Vulcan to accept being shackled. And in the book, Vulcan is burning, and he just approaches her, and it says that as Vulcan approached her, defiance quickly turned to fear in her eyes as she raised her wrist higher. Vulcan, consumed in a boiling wrath of rage, pointed his flame gauntlet at the child. A voice in his head simply said, "Don't." He did
Ooh.
not listen. A gout of burning promethium encased the child, and as the bones and as the skin crinkled, as the bones turned to dust, one blow of, I forget the name of his hammer, finished the Xenos life. Right. And the funny thing is that people will know it as a meme, oh, Vulcan blurted out our child. But this is actually a character developing point for Vulcan. Afterwards, he is so incredibly shameful and regretful, and he confides in his pyre god, which are his elite inner circle, about, hey, what the fuck did I do? Because what people get wrong about Vulcan, right, is that they
Yeah.
assume that he's like, and this is something that they get wrong about salamanders in general. I actually did a video about it, but it's like they assume the salamanders are soft, right? They're the nice guys. They care about humanity. They're not really like angry, but that is objectively wrong. In terms of being wrathful, salamanders are one of the most wrathful, rageful legions. The thing is, though, you have to really get them upset. One of my favorite quotes of all time is that when a Sons of Horus veteran, right, was talking about the Istavan 3 Dropsite Massacre, which was a big battle that happened in Warhammer during the Horus Heresy. It involved the Salamanders and like the Raven Guard and the Iron Hands, other legions. And they got ambushed by all the traitor legions. They basically got wiped out, right? It was a big surprise betrayal. And he said that how I've been told that if you fight the son of Gilliman, aka an Ultramarine, you have to make sure that he is dead. If not, he will come back. But Vulcan's sons, they just don't die at all. He talks about how they had them surrounded, how they had the high ground, how despite everything, they just wouldn't die. And it's most famously the only way that the traitors were able to get rid and dislodge the salamanders and their Primarch Vulcan was literally by nuking them with like straight up atomic nukes. And Vulcan is also perpetual, mind you. So he got that from the Emperor. So he can't die by normal means. But Vulcan was such a monster that he survived the nuking. They then had to nuke him again because still he and some of his salamanders survived that. That didn't work. So they literally had to go into close quarters, hand-to-hand combat.
Sir, we
And
ran out of
Vulcan, they
nukes.
still no, because like nuking him didn't work, so they had to get him in hand to hand. But with his bare fists, he was cracking open Space Marines. Like no Space Marine could get near him. It took the intervention of the Vulcan. So Vulcan had already fought a massive battle for like multiple days. He'd been super tired. He got nuked twice, and then finally it took his brother Conrad Kurz, the Primarch of the 8th Legion Night Lords, to literally use his super fast, sneaky shenanigans to wrap up a wounded, exhausted Vulcan and capture him. Even after all that, it still took another Primarch to capture him.
So now, because you assigned Jiminy Cricket to him as well, I'm now picturing Jiminy Cricket going, it's like, so you won't follow your conscience, huh? Fist to the face!
What? You're young hoodlum? I'll knock your block off!
No, it is because like I don't know if you or any of your viewers have heard the old saying. There are three things that all wise men fear: a night without no moon, a sea in the middle of a storm, and the wrath of a gentleman. Right? That's the idea behind the salamanders. It's also a play on 40K because salamanders are objectively the most evil-looking Space Marines, aside from the traitor legions, right?
Yeah,
because the traitor legions are literally like Satan.
Yeah, mutated
but,
and stuff like that.
I don't know if you can put up like an image of a salamander like on screen, but they have coal black skin, like coal black, like dark, deep, rich, jet black ebony skin
They're well
with
done
skin
steaks.
texture.
They're well done
Like
steaks.
burnt, but not even like well done. Burnt as in you picked up the steak to go and plate it, you fell, it slipped through like the grill, through the grill, landed in the charcoal, got covered in the charcoal. You then fished it up when you were cleaning the grill a few hours later. That's what the salamanders are. Simple as. So they have deep, deep jet black skin. They have like coal-like skin texture. It's rocky. It doesn't feel like skin, and they have deep, piercing red eyes. Like they are literally, they look like monsters. Also, they're the biggest space marines, like physically speaking. So they're just massive hulking brutes.
I don't have Quasimodo in my list, but I'm guessing if Quasimodo is going to be assigned to one, I'm guessing these guys because he's very monstrous looking, but has the heart of gold.
Exactly, 100%. So yeah, basically, if you have a character that's like, I know I gush about salamanders for a lot, but I'm trying to be unbiased as possible. My favorite Legion, bro. I can't help it. But if you want a character who's all about like moral goodness, saying like salamanders, and to like go back to answering the previous question, people say, oh no, there's no good guys in 40K. That's half true. There are no good factions in Warhammer 40K, right? But in certain factions, except for maybe like Chaos, you can find like good people. A perfect example is Caiaphas Cain, which if
Caiaphas Cain,
hero of the Imperium. To any of your viewers, if you guys want to get into reading into Warhammer 40K, I highly recommend the Caiaphas Cain novel series. There's audiobook versions of them. They're great. Cain is objectively a good guy, and he's in Warhammer 40K. So there are good guys all over the show. It's just that there is no one faction that possesses the majority of the good guys. There are no good factions.
Which kind of good with satire to like real life or so other sort of fictions as well. I used some of Caiaphas Cain quotes on one of my videos. I did put a picture of him, one of the book covers. I'm not really sure if the viewers caught that, but like, yeah, I do recommend like Caiaphas Cain book. And also if you like a lighthearted Disney-esque faction, I would say the Salamander is a good guy because like they're genuinely most of the time are trying to do the good thing. It's either
like most like if you want they are definitely 100% the goodest, most moral of all the Space Marines.
Yeah.
Right.
Says you goody two-shoes.
So Jiminy Cricket now passed away. Now we have to actually get to one of my favorite characters. One of my favorite, not the favorite, but one of my favorite is this guy, Prince Philip. I gotta say, I feel like the main character syndrome for this guy is way too much. So I think he'll probably end up with his own chapter. But first, like if he's going to, I think chapters are descended from legions, right? They're descended from one primary legion or something. So we'll first assign him a legion first, and it is going to divert from their ideals. Like we can talk about a success chapter for this guy. But if I were to describe Prince Philip, I would say among all I made a warrior prince Disney list where like who's like the top warriors. Like this guy's definitely amongst the most greatest fighters in the Disney prince list because again, this guy slayed a horde of goblins and went on to fight a dragon witch and did it. Of course, he had the help of magic. He had like the three fairies, so he always has magic assistance. But skill-wise, again, he can handle a horde of enemies, and he can also handle a big beast like a dragon witch. Great rider, great horseback rider, great fighter with shield and sword-wise. In terms of character-wise, I would say he's also kind of like Eric in a sense. He's much more free than duty or honor-bound and things like that. He's very honorable, I would say, but again, he's still a bit more free because he was officially was to marry Sleeping Beauty, which he doesn't know how she looks like. But then he comes across a woman in the woods and he's like, okay, she's the love of my life now. I don't care about who I'm betrothed to the kingdom. And he comes off and says to his dad, bye, Dad, I'm going to marry this girl. It's like, no, you're betrothed to this girl. No, I don't care. So he's kind of free spirit when it comes to the heart. But I think the easiest way to describe it, because like among the classic princes, he's the one who does the most, mainly being the big action hero. He's the guy, the classic image of a prince slaying a dragon. That is this guy. So if he's going to be a Space Marine Legion, what Legion will he be? And we can talk about the success chapter as well.
Okay, so kind of tough one, not gonna lie. But immediately hearing you describe him, the two that come to mind immediately, like 100%, I'm thinking about it. Because like you said, main character syndrome, and a
Yeah.
lot of 40K fans are going to like agree with me. The two I have is like the 13th Legion Ultramarines and the First
Ooh,
Legion Dark Angels. Right.
nice.
So we can talk about those. So the Ultramarines are basically the poster child of Warhammer 40K. You notice how whenever you Google Space Marine, they're always blue?
Yeah, it's
That's
these
the
guys.
Ultramarines.
It's the Smurfs.
Yeah. Yeah. So the Ultramarines have been kind of infamous in Warhammer because there was a period in like the early 2000s where a particular Games Workshop writer
Mm.
decided that his favorite faction was the Ultramarines, and he was going to be very interesting. I say interesting. He wrote absolute garbage about them. Like he made them the most overpowered Mary Sue bullshit ever. He disrespected everything that there was. Like they were just like they were the greatest Space Marines, period. They were the gods amongst men. They were
Uh,
amazing. They were wonderful. They were the best. They were the literal definition of like a Mary Sue or a Gary Sue, whatever you want to call them. They were like perfect without blemish. And that put a lot of hatred into 40K fans' hearts because a lot of their favorite factions got sidelined,
uh,
particularly the Eldar and the Necrons that did not like the Ultramarines. But in recent years, they've been fixed, thank God.
mm,
There's still a little bit of that leftover hate, but anyone who's recently got into the hobby, yeah, you have no reason to like hate the Ultramarines. In terms of like describing them, each legion has its own specialization, right? So some legions are going to be like the White Scars, the Emperor's Children, the Dark Angels. They're S tier when it comes to like swordsmanship, right?
uh,
The Death Guard and the Salamence, they're S tier when it comes to be just thick, chunky boys, right?
yeah, big
When it
boys.
comes to being
We can
like,
take the hits.
yeah, when it comes to like being like defensive and like siege warfare, the Iron Hands and the Imperial Fist, those are like, so the Iron Warriors rather than the Imperial Fist, that's like S tier, right? The Ultramarines, they don't have, well, they have maybe one S tier, but that's more like an A plus plus plus, which might be S.
Is
It
it
depends. We don't
Microsoft
know much
Excel?
about the rest.
Is it Microsoft
It's
Excel?
close. It's logistics. It's logistics. I think it's fair to say the Ultramarines are like basically S plus when it comes to logistics.
Mm,
But their whole shtick is that in everything else, sword fighting, being tanky, siege warfare, they're all A's. They're
mm,
A's across the board. They don't super excel in everything, but they're good at everything. And also they had the honor of being the biggest Space Marine Legion, right?
yeah.
They had 250,000 Marines at the height of the heresy, whereas the average was like around 120,000, give or take 150. So they were the biggest legion because they had the best logistics.
Mm,
They were also known for being very pragmatic. In fact, there's a classic joke amongst the Warhammer 40K fans. It's like theoretical and practical. Because something that Ultramarines would do is like how they would evaluate the situation is literally a thought process. Theoretical, if I am hungry, I want to go to the store to go and get some food. Practical, it's dripping rain. If I go outside, I'm most likely going to get wet. Theoretical, all right, I'm not going to go to the store. How about if I just order food then? Practical, if I order food, I'm going to get something unhealthy. I can't do that. Theoretical, what if I get something healthy? Practical, I can get something healthy. That's the whole thought process of the Ultramarines, and that's actually canon. So they always get memed on about being like Excel nerds and all, but because like they are about logistics and
yeah.
like doing things properly and by the book. The book being the space book, the
Yeah.
Codex
Codex
Astartes.
Astartes. Uh, but
So
but you also said like why you are connecting Prince Philip to the Ultramarines, but you also said Dark Age as well. But we'll get to them. But like, why do you think you vibes with the Ultramarines?
So I think about the Ultramarines. Ultramarines, they're all about they get stuff done, right? They are one of the
Ah,
most successful legions out of all of them. But you also have many amongst them because the Ultramarines have a Roman theme to them, very
yeah.
heavily inspired by the early Imperium Great Republic Rome. So they're all about arts and culture and understanding and learning. They're very free-spirited in that regard. They're very dutiful, right? But they also have that side of a Roman where they are incredibly understanding of what's going on and the people around them. But also in the same vein, they get stuff done. They are one of the most effective legions, period. So, you say main character syndrome, he has a lot of culture to him, but he's not fully like a blank slate, but he
Yeah.
gets stuff done, he's effective. Ultramarines like scream to mind, right? As you talk about like if you had to pick like a main character legion, like a main legion, it's most likely going to be the Ultramarines. And that's going to rub a lot of people the wrong way, but it's like I'm an Ultramarines fan, but I'm not saying that because I am. I'm saying that because they have a lot of main character energy. But
Yeah.
that's the Ultramarines. The second legion that I say is the Dark Angels, the
For
first
that,
legion, the uncrowned princes.
for them, I have to say, so my introduction to Warhammer, so I was like basically watching a bunch of YouTube videos. The first, I know about the game. I think I played one game a little bit, and then I played the Space Marine game as well. So my because the Blood Angels and the Ultramarines were mostly like the poster boys, I would say. But I saw two series as cartoons as
Mhm.
well. But even though I liked Red, I didn't like the symbol of them. So I was like, you know what? There are many Space Marine legends. Let me find out who fits them. And I did one of the Warhammer quizzes. I think Games Workshop has online to find your own Legion and the Horus Heresy. And the what? Even before I knew who these guys were, I got the Dark Angels. And the reason why, okay, I'm them. The reason why I settled on these guys is because the Primarch is Lion L. Johnson. Okay, that's Lion, and I'm sticking with
Lionel
it.
Johnson, baby. Fun fact, L. Johnson is Calibanese or Calibanite. Caliban is the world that the lion crash landed on. It means son of the forest. Because the
Ooh.
lore behind the lion is that he was basically a feral wild child, killing things like and living like an animal for the first 6 years of his life in the forest. And he was actually found by the Grand Master of an order of knights, right? And these were
Ah,
techno knights. So they rode horses, but their horses had power armor, and they had power armor and plasma pistols and power weapons, right? So it was like it's pretty wild shit.
yeah.
So they had that, and then
So,
he took the kid in as his own and named him Lion L. Johnson, Lion, the son of the forest. They named him the Lion because when his knights first encountered, the dude straight up was said to be like a roaring lion killing, like he killed like a bunch of knights. I think it's like 6 knights by with bare hands, butt ass naked. And he's like, yeah, he's a lion. And he's like a lion, the son of the forest. So that's his old naming conventions. The lion is also kind of a dick. He's not charming in the slightest bit, right? So you have Prince Charming. The lion is like the exact opposite. The lion is a negative riz, L riz when it comes to the lion, right?
charisma
He's
zero.
so
-0.
yeah, he's so bad. He's so bad that some people unironically believe that he is may actually be autistic. That is how bad he is when it comes to like social interactions. But GW has never confirmed that. So he isn't. He's just
Okay.
super, super so bad at social interactions that people actually look at him and like, yeah, this is very tism behavior. Like, and I don't blame
Uh,
him. He
uh,
sucks. He's such an asshole. He's so bad.
okay, so how would that connect to the Dark Angels with this guy? Because like this guy's pretty charming, I would say. This guy's the hey, I mean like he picks
Yeah.
up a girl he's telling the forts pretty easily. So I'm guessing his charisma is not as bad as Lionel Johnson, but still why do
Okay,
you
so
connect? Yeah.
for the Dark Angels, why it's just the Dark Angels are basically, whereas the Ultramarines are the poster boys,
Yeah.
because there's always like this meme because you have like four main legions that are very popular. You have the Lunar Wolves led by Horus Rupercal. Horus was the first son ever found, so these
The
were the
Ball
first ever
Terror.
Space Marines. Yeah, these were the first ever Space Marines to be reunited with their father, so they had the longest list of victories because they've been around the longest, right? Also, Horus is the guy, so he is John Primarch. Yeah, c'est la vie. The second is you get the Space Wolves, the Sixth Legion, led by Riemann Russ, said to be the Emperor's executioner, right? The Space Wolves are the Emperor's dogs, literally his attack dogs, right? You then have the Ultramarines, which are, like I said, with Bobby G, they're Romans. Romans do
Yeah.
Roman things, very effective. But then you get the Dark Angels. The Dark Angels are the first legion, the uncrowned princes. So, fun fact, do you know how people say the Astartes are the Emperor's angels of death?
Yeah.
That was not a nickname given to all Astartes.
Oh, so they are
That was a nickname given to the first 10,000 of the uncrowned princes. They were the Emperor's angels of death because wherever they went, death followed swiftly.
Nice.
The First Legion, the Dark Angels, they are the Legion that gets shit done. The Dark Angels have the most wackiest, craziest technology because there's a lot of Dark Age technology stuff.
Yeah.
So the Dark Age technology is like the name for humanity before the collapse, right?
Yeah.
So basically, you have the Dark Age of technology or the Golden Age of technology, right? You then have the Age of Strife, which is like 5,000 years, and then you have 30K, right? The Horus Heresy and the Great Crusade. All the bad Dark Angel nonsense are given to the Dark Angels. Like, for example, they have something called the Exindio. So remember how I said that there was like a whole Men of Iron AI rebellion type thing?
Yeah.
So that was something called the the Men of Iron, which is Men of Iron, robots, right? Men of Iron. Basically, in Warhammer 40K, no AI is allowed. AI forbidden. Very bad, very voodoo, very taboo. Because it's gotten to a point that what they do, instead of using like AI to compute on a computer, they would literally take a lobotomized criminal, yoink out their melon, stick it in the computer, and have that run the computer. It's like, have you ever seen anything that has like a floating skull or like a skull head attached to it, like a machine?
Yeah.
That's not for show. There's an actual honest to God human noggin crammed in that summer bitch making it work. Like there is gray matter parking in there, right then and there, making that shit go vroom.
I mean, this is supposed to be Disney, but I feel like Skeletor is like, I've been copyright infringed. They're stealing my shtick.
No, that'll be the Necrons. Like, oh god, that's Trazen the Infinite. Trazen the Infinite is 100% the Skeletor 40K. The Skeletor 40K. I'm writing that down. That's good. But yeah, basically AI is completely and utterly abandoned. It's just like a no-no, AI bad, no robots. The Exindio are the last remaining Men of Iron, given unto the Dark Angels for safekeeping to be used as battle automata. The Dark Angels were said to be entrusted with the worst, most dangerous, most terrible, most powerful weapons of the Dark Age of humanity. Only they, of all the Space Marine legions, gain access to such terrible and powerful technology. That's why one of their two signature weapons are power swords, because they have a very knightly theme to them.
Yep.
So they love power swords, but also plasma technology. There's a saying amongst the Warhammer 40K community. When the Emperor of Mankind wants a message to be sent, he'll send Leman Russ, big, loud, boisterous Viking wolf boy. Right? When the Emperor wants something to be annihilated and erased from history, he sends the lion and his first. Because the lion is the firstborn son.
Yeah.
He is the eldest of the Primarchs. The First Legion is the oldest. They are the deadliest. They have the deadliest weapons, the deadliest gear. Also, they literally are based off Grand Master Knights. They had like their things are known as orders with Grand Masters.
Yeah.
Like they have a paladin look to them. If you think about like a medieval crusader inner circle type of knight vibe, like magical paladin, you want paladin? Dark Angels.
Right. Okay, that then what you're saying is actually perfectly good because like it's not in a D&D sense, but still like out of all the Disney princesses, this guy's probably the one who had the most magic help of all, other than Aladdin. But Aladdin's thing is different than combat thing. But like
I mean, look, I'm just gonna say it, right?
Yeah.
Having a giant 12-foot tall robot that can create a miniature stun and shoot it at another guy, that sounds like magic to me. So I could say that's like if like Philip was like a captain of the Dark Angels, he would probably have like a golem. Like, we can make this work.
Yeah.
We can make this work. Besides, he's sword guy.
Yeah.
Dark Angels are sword boys.
Yeah, that's and again like one of the reasons why I was like I'm fine with Dark Angels because like I when I did the quest, I mean like the main reason I stuck to this is because the name Lion, and I was like okay, that's it. I want it. So, but then afterwards they're like knights, and then I researched the lore a little bit. But I mean like before, we don't want to get too much deep into it, but I do want to say like one of my frustrations that I always have with the Warhammers when it comes to Dark Angels specifically is like because their role is like 100% not defined, because like they kind of very interlap with the Rust a little bit with the Space Wolves. And also with the night themes as well, because like kind of the old Space Marines kind of look like knights anyways. And also you have specific chapters like Black Templars as well. I mean, like even knights themselves, there are different orders and things like that. But like that's why I got a little frustrated with the Dark Ages. Like, okay, they do not have a very strong theme that demands like these guys. But what you said about them being the original, the real angels of death.
Yeah.
That kind of is. I think they should stick to the
Fun fact about that, like like you actually like got it wrong. Other Space Marines don't look like the Dark Angels. There's a reason why all other Space Marines look like the Dark Angels. That's a canon reason. They were the first to get everything. The power armor, the knight armor. Like they literally wrote the Space Marine book. There was a book called the Principia Bellicosa, aka the Prime Book of War. Direct translation. Right? The Dark Angels literally wrote that.
Take that, Gilliman!
Now, literally, the Dark Angels created the concept of a Space Marine. They are the first legion in every single way you can imagine.
Okay, I really want them to lean into this because I think they're gonna get a lot more love now because the Lion is now back and everything. So I want them because like I never heard that before. Like I didn't know about another book from the Codex Astartes, but now take that, Roman Smurfs. We have a book too.
Yeah, because like that's the main difference between like 30K and 40K. They really are two separate settings, if I'm being frank. There's so much different between the two.
I'm not 100% sure this guy would be having his own chapter in a sense because like he's not really shown off to be any sort of like handling a group situation or things like that. But in the second film, it's kind of implied that he is leading a war and stuff. But because we now said like two legions kind of mixed with them, he will definitely be one of those successful chapters, right? So like what is kind of a chapter? Can you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, a good way to imagine it, like if you're a history nerd, if you're familiar with like the Napoleonic regimental style system, it's basically that, right? Each chapter is its own regiment with its own history and own like iconography. They're very much so like a monthly monastic order. You can think of it like that. Like a knight order. They have their own history and tradition and martial culture. And what basically happens is that after the second founding, which is when the original legions were split into chapters, the Imperium would have more and more foundings. Basically, the Terra has a giant stockpile of gene seed. It's because all chapters are required to send gene seed to Terra to stockpile it for safekeeping and to make a new chapter. And once the gene seed tied, gene seed is basically the special juice that makes a Space Marine a Space Marine. With no gene seed, no Space Marine.
But it's Space Marine genetic steroids.
Yeah, literally, 100%. Fun fact, there's actually a Space Marine organ whose whole point is to make steroids. That's how Space Marines get so big.
They're walking trend tanks. It's like, yeah, have you bumped, brother?
Literally, no, that's literally it, bro. They're swimming with roids.
I'm also now picturing, the meme of like all the Space Marine 2 characters with like Giga Chat looks like eyebrows racing, like, did you pump, brother? Yes, I'm pumping, brother.
No, that's literally it. So yeah, new chapters are created either in foundings, in which case Terra decides, okay, we need more Space Marines, so they create a bunch of new chapters, or they can be created under specific circumstances, right? But yeah, it's a big process because Space Marines are not cheap. Surprise, surprise.
Money.
So I also want to plug this in. Do you have a great video that I would recommend you guys go check it out if you want to create your own Space Marine chapters and things like that, like how to homebrew your own Space Marine chapter, which you can actually do. I will have the link in the description. You can go create more Disney themed Space Marines if you guys want to, and you can always submit it to me as well. Follow me on Instagram, submit your submission. I will make a community post of. If you watch Major General Bradley's video, you know how to do the specific things. And with this, with Phillips, I actually did went and create the Blue Boy. I think I shared a picture of you on Discord, which probably up by now for the viewers. With that one also, I kind of mainly went with. There's a good picture of Philip where he's not red or black, but this is as the movie color. But I think in the posters he was like blue, shiny, shieldy. So I was like, I kind of made a successful chapter after that, but I did not create any sort of lore for them. But
Yeah.
because of that, like, so you're saying that he would be half Dark Angel, half Ultramarine mix.
No. He'd be fully Dark Angel. So there is a thing called chimeric gene seed, which is a mix. But what a
Yeah.
lot of newer 40K fans get wrong about chimeric gene seed is that it does not work. It
Ah,
works like 1 out of 100 times. Most
okay.
often, what happens is the gene seeds will end up clashing with each other, and you get like a Quasimodo instead of a Prince Charming, where it's Philip. That's what ends up happening. So
Okay.
chimeric gene seed, I would not recommend including that in your homebrew because that just does not work. It's
Okay.
very, very, very rare. But I would say for Philip, he would be like a Dark Angel's descendant because of that.
Yes.
So I would say that the way that his chapter would work is that they're all about bladesmanship, right?
Hmm.
Mastery of swords and shields, and they have a very heavy infantry focus to them, like heavy on the
Uh,
infantry, getting in close quarters. But they also have a lot of quote unquote magical support, which is going to be massive plasma-based weaponries,
yeah.
right? So things like plasma predators or plasma vindicators, those are tanks, right? They have a lot of plasma support, lots of inceptors. That's a unit that has a giant jump pack and two big plasma guns strapped to it. So he just hops around shooting things with plasma. So their idea is that they use a lot of advanced technology
Hmm.
to basically corral the enemy into close quarters where they can finish them off with the blade, which I think would represent Philip's fighting style really well. How lots of magical support, but
Yeah.
at the end of the day, sword and board get it done.
Yeah. So like I need to do melee. But what would their name be? I couldn't think of a name for like what his chapter would be.
I mean, like a super easy, super simple, very uninspired one is simply just to say the Knights of Saint Philip, right?
Oh, nice.
Yeah. That's very simple. It's pretty uninspired, but it's very simple. There are many imperial saints. You could say that Philip was the name of their first ever chapter master. He
Hmm.
died, he became an imperial saint, or you'd say the Knights of Philip. Very simple, very easy. Or if you want to take, you mentioned like the heart.
Yeah.
So you could say like the guardians of the heart, or
The
like the
God,
protectors of the heart.
the Guardians of the Heart. I can feel
Yeah,
like
if you
I
want to do
can.
something like that.
Yeah, you guys decide in the comments, people. Like, what do you like more stuff, or you suggest some alternative names if you want to as well in the comments. I will make a post of that model I created along with your names, and one of the guess the best one I like. So also I would like to add this chapter would be the nicest Dark Angels, considering the fact that Philip is much more nicer than any of the Dark Angel guys.
No. Like there is only out of all of the Dog Angel chapters, there
Yeah.
is only one chapter that is known for being pretty good guys. The rest of them are kind of iffy.
Yeah.
They take after their dad. For those of you wondering, those are the Angels of Absolution. They are
Ah.
the only, yeah, they're the only because they're the only Dark Angels who are like, yeah, we're not beholden to the sins of our fathers. They're not paranoid, so they're just like
Ah.
good Space Marines. They're Dark Angels, except they went to therapy, literally.
I like that. So definitely, okay, okay, we got Philip done. Now we move on to one of my channel's favorite characters. Again, if I don't, I mean, I first thought I would only include human characters, but then the reason why I included non-human characters as well, we'll accept them as humans. We'll just base them off character traits. But my channel really loves the Lion King. They would kill me if I don't include the Lion King in it. So I'm gonna ask you what sort of legion, or even he might even create his own chapter, is that Scar would fit into. So Scar from the La.
Scar.
Yes, Scar from the La.
Okay, Scar. First character you don't actually have to describe to me
Yeah.
because I know about Scar.
Charmed.
There are two that immediately jump at me,
Yeah.
and that is going to be the 8th Legion, the Night Lords,
Yes.
and the 20th Legion, the Alpha Legion.
Oh, the
Yeah.
CIA.
Yeah, so TLDR, the Night Lords are Slavic inspired Marines, but they are basically the opposite of Space Marines. Initially, what they were supposed to be was a necessary evil. They were supposed to be like terror troops, but like necessary, right? Every country, every faction, they have the necessary bad guys, right? The necessary evil, right? They're the war crime Space Marines, but for a certain reason. What ended up happening is that when Conrad Kurz, their Primarch, was reunited with them, he left his planet Nostromo. But because he left his planet Nostromo, Nostromo used to be a crime world, right? Literally just ridden with crime. The Night Haunter, as he was named, brought justice and order to Nostromo, but out of fear. And when he dipped, the fear went with him. So instead of getting the best of the best of the best sent to become recruits, he got literally psychotic criminals and gangsters, meaning that instead of the Legion being filled with the best people, it was filled with the worst people. And thus, you take a murdering, raging psychopath and you turn him into a genetic augmented super soldier, you get the Night Lords.
You put Scar in a perfect way. I volunteer. This sounds like me.
The main reason why I said Night Lords is because they're known as cowards. 100%. Because the Night Lords will only fight a battle they know they can win, and they will only fight enemies weaker than them, which is why they prey on civilians 9 times out of 10. It's canonical that when they see other Astartes, if they do not possess overwhelming force or like more numbers, they will just outright just dip. They'll just up and run.
Simba, I'm family. Bye.
Literally, just up and vanished. Up and vanished. Just don't care. And they're also canonically the weakest legion in terms of physical Astartes to Astartes combat. Because whilst they have some very, very, very good fighters, their whole tactics during the Great Crusade and the Horus Heresy was terror tactics. They would literally assault one city, pillage the city, skin the populace alive, and be done with it. And it worked. But because that's the tactic, that means that they're not used to taking losses. They're not used to fighting like terrifying things. Like there was no like major campaign that the Night Lords fought in which they really suffered. Which is why during the Thramas Crusade, which was the big engagement between the Night Lords and the Dark Angels during the Horus Heresy, like granted, it's the Dark Angels, right? But against any other Space Marine Legion, the Night Lords got bit. Demolished. They got wrecked. They got destroyed. It was no contest. It was a beatdown. The Lion picked up Kurz, put him on the floor, beat him up, and then left to go and get coffee, came back, threw the empty cup on Kurz, and kicked dirt in his face. Like it is no contest. No contest at all. The Night Lords got absolutely demolished.
Note to self, Scar, don't fight Prince Philip.
Yeah. No, because that's why I said Scar, because like that's the thing with Scar. He doesn't do shit much himself. He uses his underlings to do it for him. But when his underlings don't, because he's a pussy, right?
Yeah.
So in every sense of the word, he doesn't do stuff on his own accord, right?
Yeah. You see them, that's his main trump card. Is like, I understand that I'm not king, but you see them, they think I'm king.
Yeah. So there's that. And then the second option, we have the Alpha Legion, right?
Yeah.
The Alpha Legion are literally meme legion.
Meme.
There is a common... No, meme.
Meme. Okay, meme. Okay.
Meme.
No, it's spelled M-E-M-E. So it's me.
Because there is a joke that Warhammer 40k's lore is convoluted.
Yeah.
This is true. Alpha Legion lore is non-existent. Why? Because there is a catchphrase said by Alpharius, the one of the two, because the Alpha Legion have two Primarchs, Alpharius and Omegon.
Yeah.
Right? They were originally one Primarch, but during the transition to the Warp, they were literally split down the middle, mind, body, and soul. Right? The Alpha Legion have a saying. Alpharius says, this is a lie. And this goes to show that the Alpha Legion are about deception, they're all about subterfuge. Like, you will never know an Alpha Legion plan is going on until it's already finished. Like, the minute you know the Alpha Legion are here is the minute that they're leaving, right? Because there's no point in hiding from you because you're dead. They are about subterfuge. They are about special operations. They are literally the CIA. They will go into, like, a planet's water. One of my favorite stories about the Alpha Legion. They made it rain snakes.
Now, how the hell did he do that?
So, way back when, in the grim darkness of the wacky world of Warhammer 40k,
Yeah.
the Alpha Legion needed a bunch of psychers, right? Magicians, space magicians, magic users, wizards. They needed them. So instead of going and getting them like a normal Renegade Legion, no. That we don't do that here. We're Alpha Legion. What the Alpha Legion did is that they went to a planet, right? They then, for months at a time, fed hallucinogenic gas into the atmosphere filters of this world. So that every night people would be having dreams that in relation to the warp, right?
Oh.
The Alpha Legion would then wait until the warp in that current area was super powerful, in which case they activated all of the gas so that the entire world had dreams about the warp. And they all had the same warp-based dream, which was it raining snakes. And in Warhammer 40k, the warp is a resemblance of our own human thought, soul, and emotion. So literally what you think happens in the warp. And there were, since the entire planet, millions of them were literally thinking it caused psychers to be born, like literally explode into being. And that, combined with all the psychic energy being generated by those dreams, literally caused the skies to open and snakes to rain down because the psychers manifested the dreams of the people who were dreaming.
This is definitely something like Scar would be like plans upon plans instead of yeah, it's like instead of taking out Scar and adopting Simba, he's like, no, that's not what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna be a conniving plan that will also kind of backfires as well, but in the end,
that's also another thing I'm gonna get to because like half the population gets wiped out in one night because snakes. Right? The Alpha Legion then come in, steal all the psychers, kill all the rest, and then just leave. Because they're the Alpha Legion and that's what they do. But it's annoying because there is no such thing as concrete lore about the Alpha Legion. There are very, very, very few like concrete bits of lore about the Alpha Legion. Right? Part of that is because this is a lie. So you ask any 40k YouTuber, doing research about the Alpha Legion is such a pain because there's so much lore that just contradicts itself. At the end of the Alfarius book, he starts with "This is a lie," and he goes through the whole book. Do you know what the very, very last line is of that book? That however how many page long novel
is this is all take it as you will. Is it something like that? Interpretation or something like that?
Oh, no, my darling. You see, this is Warhammer 40k. We don't do subtlety here. This is a lie. Implying that the whole book we just read was a load of garbage.
So he's the biggest troll in the 40k universe. Is that what you're saying?
Both of them, easily. Also, there's a meme that the Alpha Legion are both loyalist and traitor because the Alpha Legion is so fractured that you have Alpha Legion cells being loyalist, Alpha Legion cells being traitor. But the thing is, though, they don't tell nobody nothing, so no one knows what's going on. So the Alpha Legion are just there causing random bullshit to happen.
I feel like, the meme from Road to El Dorado. So I feel like Emperor or probably like the other legions going, okay, traitor or Imperium. And they both look at it and go, both is good.
Both is good. Now, that's the Alpha Legion. So those are the two main legions. The Night Lords for the evilness and like the cowardly aspect of it.
Yeah.
But the Alpha Legion for like the scheming and the planning side. So you could pick either, but if I had to pick, I'd say the Night Lords because there are some Night Lords that are pretty good, like sneak, because they're about sneaky tactics, right? Because they'll never take you on in a straight-on fight because they're cowards, so they have to sneak and hide and do all this nonsense. So I'd lean towards the Night Lords, but there's a very strong argument for the Alpha Legion.
The only Alpha Legion fact that connects with Scars because of the scheming aspects of it. But other than that, being a maniacal murderer, it kind of fits like Scar's MO. I think it fits kind of a lot of Disney villains' MO. But with this one specifically, I think if it's going to be like a faction from the Night Lords, I feel like they're more going to be more royal focused a traitor faction. I feel like these Space Marines will purposefully go to Imperium walls and overthrow their governor, which is basically like the Planet King.
Oh yeah, no, that's exactly what the Night Lords would do. They would go overthrow the nobility and just rule the planet and pick on the serfs.
Yeah.
1000%, that's what the Night Lords would do.
This I'm putting Scar. So happy people, your Scar is a Night Lord. Although don't pick a fight with Prince Philip. So carry on with
or literally any legion. Fun fact: the most hated legion of the Night Lords is the Salamanders, but the Blood Angels are pretty high up there. But the Salamanders really, really hate the Night Lords.
I mean, to be fair, you guys have the nicest people, and when they see the most nastiest Marine for no reason, I mean, unless even if not for a good reason, it's just like for no reason being nasty, they'll be like, I'm going to pummel you, hammer, over and over again.
Because literally, it's like the Salamander's whole shtick is about protecting civilians, and the Night Lord's whole shtick's picking on civilians. And when the Salamanders show up to give them a fight, they just run away, so it pisses them off even more.
So, okay, moving from the same Lion King X-Men, I think this may be one of the legions that we already talked about, but Mufasa. Mufasa is also a character from the Lion King. The best way to describe him as shortly, he is incredibly strong. I mean, it is so far in the Lion King movies, even though Simba is like the next king and everything like that, but it is mostly hinted upon is that Mufasa is still the big dog of the whole Lion King family. Like, Simba really wants to be like Mufasa, but like he's like the everything they want to live up to. Mufasa is like the ideal symbol that everyone wants to live up to because he's very strong. He's the big dog of the whole Lion King universe. Maybe Ahadi is theoretical father, which is not in movies and lores, but it's mostly in fandoms and things like that. And the otherwise is incredibly wise. He can be as gentle as possible, but he can be as beastly as possible if he wants it to be. And again, he's like the king that everyone strives towards. So what sort of faction do you think he would be most fitting to in the 40K universe?
So a super simple answer would be just say Salamanders. The Scar is the Night Lords. Like, it makes sense for Mufasa to be Salamander. You think about like if you think about like fatherly figures, Salamanders are 1000%. They're a kind, loving, caring, very, very strong, slow to anger though. It's like they're really good guys, but don't make them angry. But like in terms of other legions that are really, really like wise, Ultramarines are pretty wise because again they have like that wise Roman thing going on.
I also thought about Blood Angels mainly because of like the Sanguinius thing, where the idea, but the dark side of the Blood Angels kind of the reason why I don't lean towards it. But like when you think about Sanguinius,
Dark Angels are also pretty wise, but like the main attraction to the Dark Angels is like the tragedy of them. Right?
Yeah.
The Dark Angels are half angel, half a demon. So I don't know if you have like the prince from like the Beast. The Beast. Yeah, he's most likely going to be either a Blood Angel or a Space Wolf, right? Yeah. Because the Space Wolves also have a thing where they have the Canis Helix, which is literally the wolf inside of them. And if that wolf takes over, they become werewolves, aka Wolfen. For Mufasa, I would definitely say like Salamanders. Like you want like kind, nice dad figure.
Yeah, it's solid because like again, like Mufasa is again the ideal to strive towards. So anything to strive towards in the Imperial man, I would say it's gotta be the Salamanders. Other guys are maybe not so much. So again, we'll stick with Salamanders. If it's gonna be a successful chapter or something like that, because do they ever Space Marine go off their theme? Like, what if like Salamander suddenly?
Oh yeah, yeah, 100%. That always happens. Like the most notable example is the Ultramarines. They have the most successful chapters, so they have the widest diversity. Like you have like Celtic themed barbarian style Ultramarines, known as the Emperor's Spears. Like they're like heavily they're all about melee and like getting stuck in. Like their battle cry is Skrovak Urak, which means redden the earth.
Oh, it's like, no, that's not on the book.
The Codex Astartes does not support this action.
because like I'm gonna do the same approach with salamanders. I feel like for Mufasa, I think the salamanders, this is a chapter that is not from a death world, or recruit from a pleasant world, let's say. And instead of being like, looking like monster, because like Mufasa's very appearance-wise very appealing. So I'm guessing these going to be the exceptional salamanders because they don't come from a death world. They're going to look like, or will the gene seed will automatically make them look like that?
The gene seed will make them look like that, but a simple way to fix that, like aesthetically, have it be the particular world they're on, the radiation from the world mutates the gene seed, because that is what happened with the OG salamanders. So just say that the specific world that they're on mutated their gene seed, so to the point where they still have the same features of a salamander, but it's not as intense.
Yeah.
Like, it's far more like relaxed. Then you could also you just call them like Vulcan's lions.
The Vulcan's lion. Nice. I like it. I like it.
Because like you could say that the main predator on their world is lion, because there is another canon salamander successor called the Dark Krakens. They come from an ocean world. And the main predator there are giant kraken sea beasts, which they slay. So they become very proficient at killing big monsters, and they take the name of the greatest creature on the home of the Dark Krakens, right? So that's not something that always happens with like salamanders, but it's like, hey, they take a lot of inspiration from the natural predators because salamanders are all about like, being in one with like nature and the earth. A common idea behind it is like, we come by the earth, by the fire of the earth are we tempered, we are then burnt by the fire and we return to the earth. That's again like a common ethos around the salamanders.
You just described Mufasa's whole circle of life philosophy. So yeah, they're salamanders. Yeah. They're salamanders. Okay. So lightning round. I want to say Aladdin. Who do you think he'll be? Do you want me to describe him or do you know enough to go by?
No, I know Aladdin. Aladdin, I would say 15th Legion, Thousand Sons. Thousand Sons are an Egyptian-inspired legion, but they are the magic legion. Right? Like, you say flying carpet, they have flying discs, literally. Yeah, but they're all about magic and understanding. They are the smartest legion. Like in terms of like having the most knowledge, they are literally the librarians of like the space. Like they have knowledge. They're about magic. They're about learning and understanding about culture. Magnus the Red, their Primarch. Most probably, he gave up one of his eyes in exchange for wisdom. Right, that being a play from the old Odin myth.
I would say again, like with the main thing about Aladdin as well, because he's also very underrated. I think he's one of the in-canon characters who has beaten Disney Hercules. There's a separate series of Aladdin and there's a separate series of Hercules. So young Hercules did meet Aladdin and they did have a punch out. And Aladdin basically outsmarted him. And canon-wise, he's the only guy who beat Hercules.
Like, damn, that's impressive. So like saying for like the magic 15th Legion, but if you want like a scrappy underdog type, I'm gonna say Raven Guard, 19th Legion.
Nice.
The 19th Legion Raven Guard, they don't work like normal Space Marines, like the Salamanders, for instance, or like the World Eaters, up close in your face, right?
Yeah.
Chain Axe, Thunderhammer, whatever it is, they like get up personal. Raven Guard, they don't do that. Raven Guard are about sneaking. They're about stealth. They will lure you into an ambush. They will ambush your convoys. They will use your own power against you, which is why the Raven Guard were one of the smaller legions, but they were able to do so much damage because they just fought smart. They are arguably the most smartest fighting legion.
In terms of combat alone, again, despite the magical assistant, I think Aladdin would be, as you described, would definitely fit the Raven Guard more because. There's in another movie, he beat up a guy who beats up Shark. And just not even, again, he's like the skinniest dude ever, but he's just very scrappy and very smart.
He's smart.
Yeah.
Raven Guard. They're all about getting stuff done.
Okay, so next character, Tarzan. Character-wise, I would say, I think he has a very lion-esque background.
I would say Space Wolf.
Nice. Savage and with a gentle heart in mind, yes.
Yeah, because Space Wolves actually have a soft spot for citizens of the Imperium. Like, they care about the average guy. They're also one of the few Space Marines who actually, like, party. It's funny, because, like, Space Marines can't get drunk by normal means. like no like our most potent like washing alcohol,
Yeah.
like a glass of water to them, right? And so what the Space Wolves did is that they created their own alcohol called mead, which
Mm.
they literally take the most poisonous plant on their homeworld of Fenris, and they distill it into liquor. They take literal poison that can kill a normal. Mead is said to be so potent that one sip from a glass of mead will kill a normal man in under like 5 minutes or something.
Mm.
And they just get hammered on that and they get high and they have massive feast halls because like Space Marines don't really need to eat. Like they need to eat like one slice of bread like once every week or like even at that, right?
So I
Yeah.
didn't know about that. So they can live off very few nutrients on their own, you mean?
Oh yeah. The longest living Space Marine, where like a normal living Space Marine lived for like 10,000 odd years. Granted, by that time he was basically like a living husk, but he was still technically alive, right?
So okay, so I think Tarzan would definitely win because the other thing is like Tarzan, other than Hercules, the most strongest character in Disney is
Oh yeah.
Tarzan. He
Space
put,
Wolves love melee. They love
yeah.
physical strength. They love getting stuck into combat. They're one of the close combat legions. They love getting up in there. So
So
another like back to like the previous example, they're the only legion that has feasts, like full-on feasts with
mm,
like mead and like roasted meats and all that. And another thing, normal like Space Marines, they'll slowly bring up their young guys through scouts.
yeah.
And then from scouts, they'll then move them up. Space Marines don't do that. They have something called blood claws. They take the young boys as soon as they get power armor, they put them into close quarters assault units. The one of the highest attrition of any Space Marine force. Right, win or die, go on, boyo. And they just chuck them into combat.
So moving on from Tarzan, this I think we already talked about, but if I may, so I'm guessing Hans from Frozen. I'm guessing he's the Emperor's children, but after heresy because of the evilness. But he can fight. I mean, Hans can legit fight. He beat the abominable
Yeah.
snowman in the Frozen movie. He did far more things than Kristoff ever did as a character. I'll just say that, even though he's the
Oh
villain.
yeah. So like thinking about that, Emperor's Children really is a good vibe. But if you want something a little bit more sinister,
Mm.
I'm actually going to say maybe either the Sons of Horus or maybe
Oh.
the Iron Warriors. See, Sons of Horus are basically they have like a gangster clan mentality to them, but they are essentially one of the most they were the most effective legion, right?
Mm.
And then they eventually became the Black Legion, which is the poster boy of Chaos Space Marines. So they're all about being very effective, close quarters. They're all about the decapitating strike, right? They hit you at the head, they hit it where it hurts. You know, but if you think of like a very vindictive, like sinister, evil legion, that really is just like chaos as a general.
Yeah, because
But
like
I
I
don't
mean,
know much about Hans.
I would say Hans he does have a little bit of childhood trauma because like he has brothers, so he has no chance of becoming the king. That's the reason why he turns evil in the Frozen movies that
Would you say
yeah.
that he's overshadowed by his brothers and he's bitter because of that?
Yes, he's highly overshadowed by his brothers, and he's so much bitter at that, and that's what made him go bad guy in the whole Frozen because he saw another
Because
way to
no
the
one
throne.
appreciates him, no one sees him for what he is,
No
no
one
one
did.
takes him seriously.
Yeah. No.
Okay, he's an Iron Warrior. Never mind. Iron Warriors, Fourth Legion. They were one of the most efficient because they specialize in siege warfare, right? Slow, grinding attritionists. They were one of the most effective legions in the entirety of the heresy. It is said by many people, and it's believed by many people, that if the Iron Warriors were not part of the heresy would not have succeeded as much as it did. Because for all Mr. Peter Turbo's faults, he carried that. Like he did work. And part of the reason why the Iron Warriors turned to Chaos was because Mr. Peter Turbo, he has like imposter syndrome and he's like a man child. He wanted people to look at him and he prays on him, but he never did. The Emperor would always give him the shit jobs because attrition is a bad job. Mr. Peter Tub would always get that job. But instead of saying something like a well-adjusted adult, he would just grind his teeth and just do it, right? And he kept on expecting the Emperor to see him do something, but he never said anything. So the Emperor was like, okay, he's happy with it. Meanwhile, Mr. Peter Tub was like, I'm just fucking dead, give him the palace. I was just stupid. No, just seething and fuming and bitterness. So no, 100%. You want spiteful, you want vindictive, Iron Warrior.
Okay, so Han's definitely going to be an Iron Warrior. The other one, again, I think most Disney villains going to fall into at least the charming villain's going to be Gaston comes to mind, but again, because of his vanity, I'm guessing he's going to be Emperor's Legion, but after, they fall to chaos.
He could be Emperor's Children, but he could also be a space wolf because he's like it's like a man's man.
Yeah,
right? The space wolves are like super brutish. But you know what? I'm gonna throw a curveball. I think he might be an Imperial Fist. Now, hear me out.
Okay.
Hear me out. Imperial Fists are soldiers, right? Whereas most Space Marines are like knights, right?
Yeah.
No. The Imperial Fists are soldiers. They get what needs to be done, and they don't care about that. Now, they're not really arrogant, which is like the big thing. They're not really like flashy.
Yeah.
But they are soldiers and they do get stuff done. Gaston, for all of his faults, he's a knucklehead. Like he's all about getting stuff done. So I don't think he is very Imperial Fisty, but you could make the argument. I would actually say Space Wolf.
The broguish.
He's very simple.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's very simple. Like he wants to kill heretics, he wants to eat a good feast, he wants to get laid. Simple man, simple as. That's it. I don't care for books.
That perfectly sums up for Gaston looking at a book and like, who reads this? There's no pictures. So
actually super funny because I don't know if you ever heard of the burning of Prospero.
Yes, this is when the Space Wolf took out the Magnus's Thousand Suns guys.
Yeah, they had a massive feud forever. Like they're the top 10 like blood feuds in like Warhammer because the Space Wolves don't like psychers, even though they do use psychers, and Demon Russ is kind of a hypocrite, but that's not here nor there. And the Thousand Suns are all about psychers. And like they're all about like learning and understand. It's literally like the jock in the nerd meme. That's literally it. So I would say Space Wolves for Gaston because Gaston fits Space Wolves.
Yeah, it's just an evil Space Wolf. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. But
to be fair, Gaston isn't really like that evil. He's if you compare him to like other Disney villains, he's like, he's not good. He's not a good guy, but he's like.
He's more of a written in a sense like he's the product of his time. So that's why he doesn't understand books. He doesn't really understand the right to choose or things like that. But he does get pretty sinister in the end where he plans, I'm gonna throw Belle's dad in the loony bin and I'm gonna force her to marry me. That's like the only where he just like shifted from being a bro, musclehead, misogynist guy to that guy. So I'm guessing like Space Wolf, but leaning towards more evilness, I would say.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
I want to say I do not have Quasimodo, although we did assign Quasimodo to the other faction. But what do you think Judge Frollo would be?
Oh, that guy. Oh, Wordbearer. 100% Wordbearer, without even the single shred about Wordbearer. Wordbearers are hyper-religious crazed fanatics. You talk about the term radical religion, Wordbearers.
Preach.
So the Wordbearers are the 17th Legion as Astartes, and their Primarch is Lorgar. Each Primarch has a special Primarch superpower. Corvus Corax, for instance, has something called Wraith Slip, which means he can basically go invisible. Vulcan is perpetual, which means he's basically immortal, right? Gilliman literally has the power of logistics. Like, I'm not gonna lie. He can literally take a look at information and immediately understand it, process it, and administer it.
He's like
He's
Batman.
literally a supercomputer on steroids.
He's like
beyond Batman.
Yeah, okay.
So like that, and every single Primarch has that. Lorgar's special ability, and what people don't know is that Lorgar has the power of oratory. When Logos
Ooh.
speaks, though he just convinces you. It's like magic. He's like 20, he's like 30 plus 30 in charisma. He's like super beyond, right? But because of his aura and when he speaks, he just has a way to convince people, right?
So,
He has the golden tongue, and his
uh,
legion take from him. They were the first to fall to chaos, and they follow chaos undivided. So instead of following one of the four chaos gods, they follow all of it. They are the strongest chaplains. So chaplains are a unit in Warhammer, which basically are the same thing as they is in modern day battle chaplains. And then to talk about spiritual purity and all that. They have the strongest chaplains. Their chaplains are known as dark apostles. These are the strongest chaos chaplains ever. They can summon demons like that. They can commune with demons. They can commune with possessed. They also have the strongest possessed. So possessed are a type of unit exclusive to Chaos Space Marines. Basically, a demon will inhabit a Chaos Space Marine's body, right?
yeah.
And in other legions, what ends up happening is that it becomes this twisted monstrosity. The demon takes over and fights for him, and it's like, like evil and nonsense. They, the word bearers, that is, they have something called the Gal Vorbak or the Blessed Sons. They are known as the true possessed because it's actually a symbiotic relationship. And that's because how closely connected they are with the demons.
So again, like what you said, the how the word bearers, the first legion to fall to chaos and things like that, even though they're being like very religious, very emperor churchy, kind of.
Actually, funny enough, do you want to know why that happened? Because it's super funny.
Okay.
The Emperor is a massive fedora wearing Redditor, right? He's an
Yeah.
atheist.
Yeah.
He hates gods, but there's a reason for it. The Emperor, like all of our parents growing up thought, I don't need to explain to him what drugs are. I just need to tell him not to do it. It'll be okay. Right? Let me not explain them or the consequences. So he's like, if I convince people that there are no gods, the gods don't get any power, and that's that.
Yeah.
And that was a problem because when Horus discovered what chaos was, he didn't know not to, in fact, take the stogie.
Yeah.
So homie took, he did puff puff, but he did not pass. Right.
Ignorance
So
is
that's
not
what ended up
bliss.
happening.
Ignorance is
No.
not bliss.
No.
The,
So
yeah, because like
yeah,
with Judge Frollo's fall as well, you can see like him being as he pushes the ladder of religious crusading more and more, and he literally becomes a hypocrite. Yeah, and then that's when he sings a song like "They let the flames of hell take me." I think one of the bass line that I like, which again, like, when I looked at him, I thought, okay, he's gonna be word bearers. It's like, "I shall strike the wicked and send them into the fiery pits." So yeah, this is the
well,
word.
to be fair, that could be any chaplain for 40K, but yeah, but back to the previous story. So what happens, like the Emperor told Magnus, hey, stop doing that. Magnus didn't believe him. He believed that the Emperor was a god because he grew up on a planet that was like Church the planet, and he had a vision that one day this golden god would come and save him, right? And he had led this big whole religious civil war, and he convinced everyone that the Emperor was coming. The Emperor came, the Emperor was like, hey, stop doing that. Magnus kept on doing that, and Magnus was the slowest to conquer worlds.
Magnus or
Sorry. Not Magnus. Loga. Loga is the Primarch. Loga. Loga was the slowest to conquer worlds because what Loga would do is that he would completely overtake them and he would literally destroy their culture and their religion and build it back up, worshipping the Emperor. Because he had something called the Ashen Circle. The Ashen Circle were an elite unit. They had heavy armor, jump packs, flamethrowers, and chain axes, right? So their job was to go to cultural centers, find cultural leaders, priests, pastors, historians, museums, and literally burn them to the ground. Their whole purpose was to annihilate culture. And then the Wordbearers would spend like decades on that one world, building it back up to the point where it was 100,000% loyal, because he had erased anything that could make them disloyal. So what happened is that the Emperor got tired of this. So he went to Monarchia. Monarchia was Loga's Jerusalem, right? The holiest of holy cities. And what the Emperor did is that he got the Custodes, which were his elite honor guard, right? Better than Space Marines.
The Golden Boys.
The Golden Boys, one step above them. And he got the Ultramarines, right? Because the Ultramarines was said to be the ideal legion. Because again, they had one of the highest compliance records. Very good, very solid. And Bobby G was like, "Hey, I don't want to do this." Emperor was like, "Yeah, you kind of need to do this, so go and do it." And he was like, I guess, but I'm not okay with it." And literally, what the Emperor did is that he had the Ultramarines orbital bombard Monarchia City and turn it to dust. Credit to the Ultramarines, they waited like several days for all the civilians, everyone to get the hell out before they did it, but they still had to. Yeah, because like Gilliman was like, "I don't want to do this because this is important because this sets the seeds of like hatred between the two, which would lead to the Battle of Kelf, one of the biggest battles in all of the heresy." So they fight, and then what ends up happening is that the Emperor gets on the surface of the planet. He grabs Lorgar and his entire legion. He makes them kneel in the ruins of their still burning city. He psychically forces them to kneel because the Emperor is a psyker. He uses his space magic to literally, a word of command, puts them on their knees and makes them bow not just before him, but the Ultramarines. And he makes the Ultramarines stand there and wait. And Bobby G, throughout all of that, is like, this is so awkward. I don't want to be here. And like the Emperor's like, look at your brother. Look how better he is. You should be more like him. And he's just there like, Yeah, so basically after this, Lorca is a broken man. His legion are broken. Their god is no longer a god. And Erebus, his first chaplain, who's known as the biggest in all Realm of 40K, he's literally the only reason why the heresy happened.
When I think of Erebus, I think of Frollo. More than Logar, I kind of think of Erebus more with the...
Erebus is the chief, right? Because there is a saying in Warhammer 40K, there's an unspoken rule. Whenever someone mentions the name Erebus, you have to say Erebus directly after. Like you go to a comment section, you go to a video, whatever it is. If they allow that type of humor, that's going to be there. Erebus falls to chaos because of his own powers and lust, because he's psychotic. And then he tells Lorga, yeah, there's not the one golden god was a lie, but I have these other gods who are looking for worship.
Disney fans kind of have this weird sensation where they kind of like the bad guys as well. If you do not know this, like Scar and Judge Frollo have like weird romantic followings. Even though they're
trust me, I know. Trust me, I know. The 40K community is just as if not more degenerate.
Yeah.
Like, trust me. Like, do not look up Eldar fan art.
Because like I can now see when you describe Erebus, like, look at, I know he's bad, but I think I can change him. I feel like if people can actually comment.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Because like there are people who unironically are like, oh no, Fulgrim's great. He's amazing. I love Fulgrim. Look at him. It's like Snake Daddy. Yes. I'm like, he's the literal avatar incarnation demon prince of the god of excess. Are you sure about this?
But I can change him.
Okay. I can change him. It's all right. It's oh my god. Yeah, okay. No, you get those in every fandom.
So he's definitely a word bearer, Frollo. I think the whole church aspect.
100%.
Like, I mean, if you need to make meme videos, use any line from Hunchback or Notre Dame. Yeah, it's Judge 100%. Frollo the chapter.
Well, to be fair, you could use that for the Webbers or the Black Templars, anything. It's just like any human faction in 40K, bro. Yeah. You could use.
The other I would say is that this is going to be a very short one, but I wanted to do this before we could move on to Shang. Is that Buzz Lightyear? Other than the Toy Story movies, he kind of has his own 2D cartoon, which I would highly recommend. I would say. They are the most Space Marine Disney character ever, because the Buzz Lightyear from Star Command is a Space Ranger. It's literally Space Marine X in a sense, except the fact that Space Rangers are technically they're not army; they're basically like the cops of the Galactic Empire. They have their
same thing.
Yeah, they're very high jump back. But instead of the 40K level melee, their weapon of choice, their answer to any problem is Buzz Lightyear's main answer is laser this. I mean, think about it. There's a meteor coming and he's like, okay, bigger laser.
So, two legions immediately jump to minds. You think about like Boy Scout proper do-gooders, Ultramarines, right? Or the Imperial Fists. The Imperial Fists are soldiers. And their main weapon is the bolt gun, which is it's the 40K space laser, right?
Yeah.
You think about like the main weapon is the bolt gun, like because
Yeah.
they're actually based off the United States Marines. They're loosely based off them. Yeah, so it's like, this is my rifle, they may like it, but this one is mine. That whole vibe. So you want like soldiery soldier do-gooders. So if you want like soldiers, go for Imperial Fist. You want like do-gooder Boy Scout type, like the poster boy faction, Ultramarines.
Ultramarine.
So both of those fit. And both of those love a good bolter.
So I think this is a note I would like to end on, because I know you like this character and you want to do some lore stuff for him as well. And that is Shang from Mulan.
Controversial take.
Yeah.
Controversial take. Best soundtrack.
Okay, I would not disagree. I like it, but I would not say it's the best.
I'm just saying, I'll make a man out of you.
It rocks.
I think 20 years later, that shit still hits.
Yeah, if you want to workout music, it's that and also Tarzan music. Other than that, you got nothing. Make it pump. But I will say this though. I know you might hate me for this, but I will say this. To be fair, Shang is better than most Disney princesses. He will definitely beat Charming. Not sure about Philip, but he would definitely beat Charming. He would beat many other Disney princess. Only the main top hat people have problem is. The reason why I say that is because as much of a good trainer he is, as a personal fighter, I don't think he's that good. Because
he's definitely a leader.
Yeah, he's more of a leader than a warrior, because like the two instances we see is that one, he fights the Attila, the bad guy, the Hun guy, and he gets beat. Basically, Mulan has to save him. And again, of course, he's a very massive dude, so it is a tough fight. The other instance, he trained this soldier so well, they were able to beat him. In literally in the soundtrack, Mulan just beats him.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind when you like assign anything to him. So again, as a leader, he's super great, and also I think he's
honestly,
also has a charm.
Just saying that,
yeah,
I would have to say because an easy answer is just to say the White Scars, because the White Scars are actually based off the Yuan Chinese, which was the Chinese offshoot of the Mongol Empire.
Ooh,
because it's canonical that the White Scars are forgotten about. People just don't remember them. And the Yuan Chinese dynasty is one of the most underrepresented dynasties in all of media. The idea of Chinese Mongols. Honestly, he's an Ultramarine. Because Ultramarines are about leadership. Because Bobby G, he has a big fist. He can hold his own in a fight, but he's not gonna win any fights. That's the thing. He can hold his own in a fight, but he can't really win a fight. He's not really the fighter guy, but he is one of the greatest generals of the Primarch. He's a leader. Ultramarines are leaders. They are the Ultramar Auxilia is arguably the greatest guard regiment that it's definitely up in the top echelons, right? And the Ultramarines are known for creating their own guard regiments, known to the Ultramar Auxilia, and they're some of the best, right? They're really up there, really, really, really up there. Ultramarines, they take command of a leadership. They're also one of the few Space Marines that are trained to interact with human beings, because every single Ultramarine is not just a warrior, he's also a judge on a world. He's a governor as well. He works with people. He does administration. He does tasks. They know how to handle people. If you want somebody to come through and train up people, you want an Ultramarine.
Yeah.
Salamanders may be great if you want a dad. The Space Wolves will be really good drinking buddies. The Blood Angels are going to really be artistic and show you a spiritual side. If you want somebody to run an office, get yourself an Ultramarine.
Ultramarine. Definitely, because although even the other aspect of Shang is that he's also very by the book as well. One of the reasons why in the second movie, if you watch, but the reason why Mulan, Shang kind of departs, and then it kind of ended a nice way with the yin and yang and everything. Mulan is more of a free spirit, while Shang is more.
Yeah, Shang's duty is duty.
Yeah, that it's kind of strong embodiment in that one. So again, that fits the Ultramarine. But you also kind of
very well.
You also mentioned to me before we even started this meeting, that the Shang story of him coming in and training another faction. So will he just be solid Ultramarine, or will he be a successor chapter or something like that?
So a really cool way to do it, because like people always wonder, like how do I create like homebrew? And when
Mm.
it comes to like creating homebrew, it's super simple. Find out, do you want your homebrew to be canon possible or non-canon possible, right? What that means is that, hey, this can exist in Warhammer 40K, right?
Mm.
It really can exist, and it's super easy for it to exist. Or you could be, this would never exist in 40K, but I think it's going to be cool, so we're going to do this instead, right? So those are the two things. But for example, for Shang, Shang's story, he is left to train recruits, and he has to then go and fight the big bad. So super simple. His boys. Like he was part of the Ultramarines Legion. The Legion got separated, and then he was left behind on the training world. The
Mm.
majority of the battle line companies, right, get absolutely trounced by a horde, be it Tyranids or Orcs, right?
Let's go with
They just get
orcs.
absolutely demolished.
Let's
Let's
go
go
with
with
orcs.
Orcs. They get ransacked by the Orcs. They just get overwhelmed and they get destroyed. Shang and his few veterans are left with the neophytes and the 10th Company, the Scout Marines, right? And all they have to do is that they have to rebuild the chapter.
Mm.
So they end up heavily recruiting, using that Ultramarine gene seed to recruit up, and they managed to build up their chapter to a point where they can hold back the tide of the Greenskins. And in the current 40K, their whole thing is like defending the Greenskins, but still recruiting enough because they need a full chapter to take on the
Yeah.
Greenskins or to hope to, but they're not there yet. So the idea behind them is that they're very efficient. They use smart tactics, hit, run, and fade, hide. They're very resilient. They don't waste anything. They're all about getting stuff done. You just create a story based off whatever it is, and you translate it into 40K. So long as you get too like heavy into like specific details and stuff, because like what
Yeah.
people get wrong is that they think like I want the uber cool, super duper cool thing. But it's like if you just say, hey, they make do with what they have. Not all their armor is picture perfect. Some of it is like prepared, and they don't fight directly. They do hit and runs, and you can make some like, oh no, they like using Vindicators. Vindicators are big, chunky siege tanks, right? They have a big old heckin' mortar and like a massive siege shield, right? If you Google an image, you'll find one of them. You just say they like to use those, right? And you can give them like Chinese inspired. You could make like the
Yeah.
head of the Vindicator like a
The
dragon mount, and
dragon.
it's like they fire
Yeah.
artillery. Just do
So
that.
I think you just created actually a perfect Disney faction. I would say Mulan, the Space Marine chapter. I think you did a perfect job just by describing it. I think that just fits so well. These guys are ultimately it's basically Mulan the movie, but in a 40s style. It's so good. I think that's the perfect merging, I would say. And also with the homebrew, I think when you mentioned before, so when I get into 40K and stuff, like I was like, okay, I'm gonna create a fan story. I kind of did this. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna take a Dark Angel. And this Dark Angel is like he's the heavy duelist focused Dark Angel. He's like their champion. They're gonna use him mainly for the duels. But Azrael doesn't trust him because like he sucks at leadership. He can't command shit. But he's very good at dueling, so Belial really loves him because of his fighting prowess. He basically trains him. Azrael doesn't really like him. He also works with other Space Marine chapters mainly because he's the duelist guy they would represent if their chapters are meeting. So Space Wolves love the heck out of him because like, hey, he's a brawly Dark Angel, finally something that I could like. But then I named it Nemean, and I saw one of your videos. There's an actual Dark Angel named Nemean, and I was like,
Named
oh,
Nemean, yeah.
I was like, oh no, my fan fiction is dead.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. It's like anything can exist.
Yeah.
Like, in the Warhammer 40K community often gets like a bad rap because they say it's very gatekeepy, which is true to some degree, but it's a lot of it is blown out of proportion by like horror stories. Like there is a small group of people who are very, very vocal about what they like and
Yeah.
what they dislike. But again, it's like if you like 40K and you like Space Marines, love your Space Marines. If you want to make a Space Marine chapter, like they don't use bolt guns, they use plasma guns, right? Is that possible in the lore? Very, 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 very unlikely. I'm gonna keep it a buck with you. That's probably never gonna happen. But hey, it's your homebrew. You want
Yeah.
it, you love it, you enjoy it. Like 40K has very, very concrete rules. So long as you don't touch those concrete rules, it's going to be fine. Like, so long as you don't go over making like elder human hybrids or making female space marines, like no problem, all right? There are concrete rules, don't touch them. But if you just want to do goofy, wacky stuff, it's like, oh, I have a guard regiment and yeah, they use tanks. But because like the tanks that they use, they don't actually like fire like shells. No, they just coat rocks and gunpowder and throw them at the enemy. Sure, why not? Crazier things have happened in 40K. Make what you make, love what you love, and do what you want to do. But as I said, there's a few core rules, and you may find one or two bad apples, but I mean, hell, most of the folks are going to be glad to listen, just be glad that you're getting into this crazy, wacky world of ours.
Because like so my whole introduction to 40K in a deep in a sense came off like YouTube channels like yours and stuff. And mainly I didn't run into any bad comments. That's actually true. I did not run into any sort of bad comments. I even like made up even very controversial things like the Hawk Boy is overrated, and there was like, yeah, you're right. But that's pretty much all the bad rep that I got. But other than that, mostly they're super supportive. I know there are mean ones in every sort of fandom and things like that. They're just too loud. That's the only problem. But otherwise, I think most of you, I think I highly recommend your channel. Again, you have that humorous thing that I really like. Because like the only books I was really able to consume in terms of 40K was the Caiaphas Cain books because they're so character heavy.
Caiaphas Cain books are great.
Yeah, and it's so character heavy and it's so humorous. And one of the channels that I really
Another
enjoy
book I would definitely recommend is Infinite and the Divine. It's two old men slapping each other for the whole book, and it's just great. It's so perfect.
And the writing, I would say again, if you guys are really literature heavy, Warhammer is like the place to be when it comes to that sort of thing.
So many books.
Yeah.
So many books.
And again, like the humorous aspect, your channel, there's a lot of good ones. You can definitely check them out. And I do want to thank General Bradley for joining this and like for mixing 40K with Disney. And by the way, I do have a link down below where you can go and make your own homebrew. There's a video of General Bradley done with how do you make a homebrew with like detailed things. You can follow that. I will have that in the description as well. And you can make your Disney themed Space Marines. And if you submit them to me on Instagram or if you email them to me, I will definitely make a community post about it. So please go and do that. And also, thank you, General Bradley, for joining us. This was a lot of fun. I mean, I still have more characters. Maybe you can do it on your own channel as well. I'm gonna make a crazy.
Hell, we can always do a part two, brother.
Yeah.
Thank you also very much for having me here. I love doing stuff like this where it's getting like non-40K people into 40K because 40K is great. And a lot of times 40K fans, we do take our setting pretty seriously. And sometimes they can come off the wrong way, but it comes from a love of the setting.
Yeah.
But you ask any 40K fan, having new folks come in and do crazy stuff like this, it's great. Because this whole IP is about crazy, wacky, silly, stupid.
Yeah.
But it's also about the serious undertones of it. And it's about respecting the seriousness of it and respecting what it is, but at the same time embracing and understanding the memes. And like a big thing that 40K fans will get worried about is like they don't want you to think like the memes are just jokes, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, it's like for example, Vulcan burning out a child. Like it's funny, big chunky element, it's funny, but it is a joke at the end of the day. It doesn't mean what it means, it's just a joke. So to all of your wonderful viewers who've watched this far, and welcome to the grim darkness of the far future. You guys are more than welcome. There's my channel as well, but there are plenty other channels. The Greek Gaming Storyteller is an amazing channel. Pancreas No Work is amazing. Wes Hammer is really fantastic. All the Bones is great. Chrono the Harlequin. There's so many amazing content creators that put their heart, soul, and love into this IP, and I cannot recommend them more than enough.
I think your channels, like you mentioned, and yours as well, literally became my bedtime audiobook channel where I prepare for bed. I would put up one of your videos and I would just like, sometimes I might cheat myself with the toothbrush because it's funny. I like, again, the most I like about it is the humor element that you put in your videos. That's what I really like. Definitely check out your own. There's a tag in the title. There's also be links in the description. And if there's like Instagram pages you like, if you connect with me, that I will put that in the links below as well. And with that, thank you so much for listening to us, and thank you, Major Bradley. That's all, folks.